Private education choice is growing across the country. By 2020, an estimated 500,000 students will be enrolled in one of these programs, which provides students with scholarships for a private education. What does the research say about education choice? Education choice is one of the most widely studied topics in all of education policy, with more experimental studies than pre-K, class size, and teacher professional development combined. Research on private education choice has focused on 5 main questions: academic performance for participating students, academic performance for students who remain in public schools, civic values, integration, and fiscal effects. The research overwhelmingly shows that private education choice is a benefit to both students and society. Let's break down some of this research. Many choice programs receive more applications than there are available slots. When this happens, students are chosen via random lottery. This random selection is the gold standard for research. It allows us to see what the true impact of a choice program is, since the two groups' only distinguishable difference is that one student group won a scholarship and the other lost the lottery. There have been 18 studies that use this gold standard to observe the impact that attending a private school with a scholarship have had on the test scores of students who win the lottery. 14 show positive results for participants in the choice program. 2 showed no noticeable difference between the two groups, and only 2 showed that student participants performed worse. Another key question for researchers is how students at nearby public schools perform after a private choice program is introduced. Since this question deals with students who did not apply for a scholarship and chose to remain in a public school, researchers have to use the second best, or silver standard, research method, which involves matching students with similar characteristics such as prior test scores, income level, and level of parent education, and tracking their results over time. There have been 33 studies on this question, and 31 found that students in public schools performed better after a choice program was introduced. This shows that all students can benefit when they are given the option to go to a school of their choice. Another common question studied is whether creating more options for students leads to more racially and economically segregated schools. This is one of the most common lines of attack from those opposed to school choice programs. 9 out of 10 empirical studies show that choice programs move students from more segregated schools into less segregated schools. The 10th study shows no impact on integration. Another key aspect of education is promoting civic values like tolerance of others, civic knowledge and participation, volunteerism, civic skills, and patriotism. Many opponents of private education choice allege that public schools are superior in this regard, and that they do a better job of instilling in their students the values that America is founded on. But the research does not confirm this hypothesis. Of the 11 studies that examine these questions, 8 show that private schools have the advantage, 3 show no noticeable difference between public and private schools, and not a single study shows that public schools produce more civic-minded students. Lastly, at a time when state governments are having to make tough choices to allocate scarce tax revenue, one of the biggest questions facing private choice programs is whether or not they save or cost taxpayer money over time. Among 28 empirical studies on education choice's financial impact on taxpayers and school districts, 25 found that choice programs save money, 3 studies show choice programs are revenue neutral, and no study shows added cost to taxpayers. This is because most programs provide scholarship amounts that are less than is spent on students in public schools. Research on the question of private education choice is an ongoing effort, and no one should claim that the science is settled. The types of questions being studied are expanding, with recent studies looking at how these programs impact students' ability to get accepted and persist in college, their lifetime earnings, and many other questions that go beyond test performance. But to date, The research on private education choice overwhelmingly shows that there are many positive benefits and outcomes for students, taxpayers, and society. For more information on education choice, see other videos on the Opportunity Learning Hub.